Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Gordon Briley with PhenoX Fitness and Nutrition. So what I want to go over today is how to create a calorie deficit. This is going to be probably one of the most basic things that you need to get right. There's a lot of variables that affect this, but I want to keep this video pretty cut and dry. Try to keep it easy to understand. But what we'll do is in the future, we're going to be making lots of videos that get a little more complex and teach a little more complex strategies to how to effectively lose weight, build muscle, whatever it may be that you're looking to do. But we want to get the basics right first. And this is the place that I would definitely start in understanding what the calorie deficit actually means. So what I'm going to do is use an example, 150-pound female. And this is just to keep it simple. Show some of these numbers that are averages and then help you to understand how creating a calorie deficit or how destroying a calorie deficit really affects your weight loss. And when you start to understand this, it hopefully will start to click and you'll see that some of the things that you've been doing have likely been sabotaging your weight loss and creating frustration and then giving up and then just going back to old habits. So again, we're going to go back to a 150-pound female, and we have some information that we're going to need to know to understand this. So the first thing we have here that we want to learn is RMR. You may have heard of this before. It's resting metabolic rate. So what this means is how many calories does it take just to keep you alive? So your brain, which takes up the majority of these calories, your lungs, your kidneys, livers, all your really important organs that are vital to life, they actually consume a lot of energy. So how many calories does it take if you just laid in bed all day? Again, this is just an average, and this number can vary pretty largely depending on your habits and your genetics. And I have a machine, an indirect calorimeter, that measures, you just breathe through a tube and it will actually measure very, very accurately what your actual RMR is, because I've seen some huge variance in this number. An example is two girls that were very similar in how they look and age and activity. They're both athletes. One girl, when we did her test, burnt about 1,800 calories at complete rest. Now the other girl, who most people would assume would probably be very similar in numbers, she actually burnt 900 calories, even though they look very similar, amount of muscle mass, age, again, athletic. So making that assumption that we're all the same is a huge problem, and how individual we are really is how to be successful is figuring that out. And we're going to kind of get into that in some other videos as well, is how to actually understand where you are and how to figure this out maybe without the testing. So we're going to use an average of 1,000 calories that you burn just to keep you alive. And this will really come into play, as you'll see. The next thing that we need to know and understand is there is 1 pound in 1 pound of fat, there is 3,500 calories. So in order to lose 1 pound of fat, you need to burn or create a calorie deficit of 3,500 calories. And how you go about that is really important. The next thing that you're going to want to know is your daily activity. And this plays a huge part of it, because someone that is sitting at a desk all day is not going to burn even close to the amount of calories that someone that's doing something that's much more physically active throughout the day, construction, whatever it may be. So the daily activity, trying to find out how many calories you burn through your daily activity, is going to be really important, because that's going to adjust your overall numbers. And the other part of that I would like you to realize is how much muscle mass that you actually have really dictates a lot of the numbers that you will need to know. So for an example, someone at 15% body fat at 150 pounds is going to burn a lot more calories per day just because they have more muscle mass. And muscle is highly metabolic, it's expensive, takes a lot of energy to maintain and to use. So someone that is that 150 pounds but at 15% body fat is going to have different numbers than someone that may be at 25% body fat. It may be up to half of the amount of calories that this other person, because they have so much more muscle. And that is one of the reasons why building muscle often should be the first thing that you try to do, and we'll go over that here in a minute. So what we want to understand is your maintenance calories. So what would it be for maintenance calories if you have 1,000 calories, your resting metabolic rate, and we're going to say your daily activity is 1,200 calories. So we're going to add those together, 2,200 calories. And this person with the 600 is only going to be at about 1,600 calories per day to maintain that current weight. So if you're at that 150 and if you're eating this number, if you're this person or this number, you shouldn't lose weight. You should actually stay about the same. And that's where you're going to start discovering your individualism really matters in the grand scheme of things. But now what I want to do is get into the actual number part of this to help you guys understand what it actually means and how to create a calorie deficit based on your numbers. So what we're going to do, again, using this example, this 150-pound female with the resting metabolic rate of 1,000 calories, we're going to go with this 2,200 to maintain. So let's say we eat, we're actually going to change this up just for ease. So 2,000, just to make the math super easy to understand. So you're going to eat 2,000 calories. We're gonna start with a small calorie deficit. We're not going to mess with our calories. We're going to eat at our maintenance level to maintain our weight, 150 pounds. We eat 2,000 calories. But what we're going to do is burn through exercise 500 calories. So with this number, 2,000 minus 500 is 1,500 calories. And that's a net deficit of 500 calories for the day because you burned 500. You subtract that from the 2,000, it's net 1,500 and net 500 deficit. Tuesday, same thing, we eat our maintenance level calories, we burn 500 calories through exercise, that's 1,500 for the day, and then it's a net deficit of 500 calories for the day. Now I don't want to take forever, so let's say we do the same thing, we're very consistent throughout the week, and we burn these same numbers. So if you take 500 calorie deficit for the day, multiply that by 7 days a week, you should have a calorie deficit for the week of 3,500 calories. And if we look back, 3,500 calories and 1 pound of fat for a human, well, guess what? You should have lost approximately 1 pound of fat. And that's by eating your maintenance levels of calories, burning 500 through exercise. So 1 pound per week. So now the example, what we want to do is show, okay, maybe you want to lose 2 pounds. 1 pound, it doesn't sound like a lot, even though, there's 52 weeks in a year. That's 52 pounds that you would lose by doing this. And that's just basically by eating your maintenance level and burning 500 calories every single day. That's a lot of weight. That's a significant amount of weight in a year. So it's really important that we understand that you're going to have to be, if you're going to do this the right way and not negatively affect your body, it's going to take a little bit of time. But even 1 year to lose that amount of weight is amazing. But let's say we want to lose 2 pounds of fat. I'm going to step it up a little bit. And now I'm just going to show you how you would accomplish that. the right way. Again, using the same example. So what we're gonna do is we were eating 2,000 calories to maintain. All we're gonna do is now eat 1,500 calories per day. We're gonna exercise, burn that 500 calories. And then now it's a net deficit. You've eaten your 1,500. That's 500 calories for exercise. So we're at a deficit of 1,000 calories for the day. So the 1,500 minus the 500 is a net deficit of 1,000 for that day. Before, when we ate 2,000, it was only a net deficit of 500 calories. So we doubled that by just subtracting some of the food that we consumed away. So same thing. 1,500 calories, net deficit of 1,000. Again, we're really consistent. Exercise every day, eat below our maintenance level, that 1,500 calories, deficit of 1,000. There's 7 days in the week. So by the end of the week, you should have a deficit. You're never going to be spot on, of 7,000 calories. That, if we look at the numbers, 3,500 calories times 2, now you should have lost 2 pounds of fat for that week. And that's creating a deficit in a way that is consistent. So you're eating consistently, you're exercising consistently. It's not all that hard. It's not that hard to understand, as long as you can kind of start to get a feel for these numbers. And again, I'm going to make a video in the future of how to understand where you may be as far as resting metabolic rate, which plays such a huge role in it. So you'll have to stay tuned for that video. So the next thing I would like to do is start to get you to understand how you may be sabotaging your diet and your weight loss and not even really realizing it. This is the part that should really open your eyes. This is pretty cool. Okay, so we're going to start out the week on track. We're eating 1,500 calories. We're trying to lose 2 pounds a week. Exercise, burn 500. You're at that net deficit of 1,000. Okay, so Tuesday, we end up eating a little bit more, and we still exercise. You burned 500, and you're at a net deficit of 500 because you ate a little bit more that day. So now, on Wednesday, we get back on track, 1,500 calories, negative 500 for the day, exercise, negative 500, and we're at 1,000 calorie deficit for that day. So we're already at 2,500 calories. That's not bad at all. Thursday comes and you have someone come into town and you're going to go out and have some drinks, and you end up eating dinner and having drinks. And it's not that hard to do when you actually, let's say you eat pizza, there's a lot of fat, a lot of carbs, a lot of calories in general, and you end up eating and consuming through drinking 3,000 calories. Okay, you don't exercise that day. So now with that 2,000 calories being our maintenance level, we're at a positive 1,000 calories. We literally wiped away that day. Next day, Friday, you're hungover. You eat your maintenance level. You don't exercise. And you have zero deficit for the day. You're just kind of cruising. Saturday comes and you feel guilty and you decide to get back on track. 1,500 calories that you consume for the day. You created that 500 calorie deficit through your diet. Now you're exercising. 500 calories burnt. You're at 1,000 calorie deficit for that day, plus the 2,500 1,500 from earlier, equaling you're at a 2,500 calorie deficit for that week so far. Sunday comes, you're watching football, you have friends come over, you're drinking again, eating, and you end up consuming excess calories. You end up eating 3,000 calories again, eating, drinking, don't exercise, and now you're at a plus 1,000 for the day. You've destroyed that calorie deficit from this day that's above. So now, for the entire week, you're at a 1,500 calorie deficit. In 1,500 calories, we know that 3,500 calories and 1 pound of fat, it's going to take several weeks. So if you do the same thing, you're really inconsistent with your dieting and exercising, it's going to take 2.5 weeks to lose 1 single pound of fat. And we all know that that's going to be extremely frustrating. So it goes to show like how just some basic inconsistency, not exercising for a day or two, and then over consuming within just a couple days can really throw you off track and really destroy this calorie deficit. But we can also see earlier when you were very consistent throughout the week with diet and exercise, it really added up fast. So that will keep you motivated because you're consistently losing 1 to 2 pounds a week. That's amazing. But when you're inconsistent, then that's where we start to run into problems, and that's where people get frustrated. So we have to be consistent. We have to understand the numbers. And this is where calorie tracking is so important, and that's why so many people do it, is they actually understand the benefit to knowing how many calories you're consuming and knowing that you are in a calorie deficit, because really all the calorie tracker is doing is breaking these numbers down. This 3,500 calories, you enter in your weight, it's essentially doing this math for you. And when you put in your information, it's just creating a calorie deficit. So that's why calorie trackers are so important or so popular, is because people are losing weight because they're understanding what they're consuming and actually creating a calorie deficit. Now, a lot of these overestimate for exercise. So it says you're burning way more calories than you likely are based on, that all depends on your muscle mass, things like that. So what I want to do is quickly go over why your muscle mass makes a big difference. So someone at 15% body fat, they're going to, at 150 pounds, they're going to burn a lot more calories than someone that has 25% body fat. So adding muscle mass is going to be one of the most important things that you can do to lose weight and also just to be healthy in general, because muscle is, they call it a glucose sink. It consumes so much glucose throughout the day, even when you're sleeping. So it's really important that you actually do some resistance training. Cardio is not, it's one way to stay in shape, and it's great for your respiratory system, cardiovascular system. So that's great, but cardio is not really the best way to lose weight. So resistance training, reducing your body fat but increasing your muscle mass, is truly how you're going to be most effective with actually losing weight and losing it long term. So my goal is to always have someone resistance train first, build some of that muscle mass, but again, this just depends on your situation, and that's the next step that I want to go over, is how your habits, either through exercise or your dietary habits, how they can affect this whole equation. And this is really, really important to understand, because this is where most people make their biggest mistakes. So we're going to get this part We're going to get you guys to understand this and get this part right and stop doing the things that sabotage your weight loss. So let's say, again, your maintenance level is 2,000 calories. Your resting metabolic rate is 1,000 calories. So this is super common. Okay, ladies, you're very often very guilty of this. You eat 1,200 calories. There's so many diets that say, okay, 1,200 calories is what I eat, so this is what you should consume, and you're going to see how this is really a problem. It really is all about this individual person, how much body fat you have, how much muscle do you have, what is your genetic predisposition for burning calories with your resting metabolic rate. So let's say you eat 1,200 calories. Now you burn 500. Okay, so now that's going to be a net calories of 700 calories. We're not really going for the deficit right now. I just want to demonstrate how many overall calories that you have by eating 1,200 calories. So you ate 1,200, you exercise 500 of that away, you're now left with 700 calories. Well, let's look back here. Resting metabolic rate is 1,000 calories. That was how many calories it took to keep you alive. So why would you possibly want to eat and burn calories that net less than it takes to keep you alive? And this is where you sabotage. So we're going to do this chronically. We're trying to kick ass in the gym. And we think we're doing the right thing by dieting and exercising, but what happens is we have to look at calories as nutrients. So not just energy to keep us alive, but we need vitamins, minerals, elements, all these little things that these calories represent. And if you're only netting 700 calories or only eating 1,200 calories worth of nutrients, your body's not only lacking with the ability to build or maintain muscle, but it just doesn't have the vitamins and minerals to actually fix, to create enzymes and all these different processes that maintenance the body and keep you healthy. So you're under consuming, and what you'll see, there's a lot to this, but to keep it pretty basic is if you're under consuming, not even enough to essentially keep your organs going, then what you're going to see is a reduction in muscle mass. And when you reduce that muscle mass, you're going to reduce this number because now you're burning less calories at all times. So this will become 900 after doing it for a couple months. And then all of a sudden it becomes 600. You're burning that much less calories at all times because you aren't feeding your body what it needs. And this really, a big portion of how this happens is through your thyroid and the hormones that produces. You see a mass reduction in your thyroid hormones plus a lack of muscle or losing muscle mass. And this is all of a sudden you're eating 1,200 calories, but you're only burning 600. You can't create a deficit with your body burning so little calories, and people call it, you go into survival mode. And that's actually a thing, because if you don't have the energy, the nutrients, all these different things it takes to keep you alive, let alone try to build muscle, and you're doing all this exercise, and you don't even have the nutrients to sustain basic function, you will not build muscle mass, you will not lose weight. You will actually gain weight because you're reducing this number and this ability. And this is where we sabotage ourselves. And this is where we have to start getting things right. You have to understand for your body how many calories through your daily activity, your resting metabolic rate, all these different things. And it's figuring these out. And that's where you should be spending your time and energy, is making sure that you're eating this 2,000 calories instead of that 1,200, imagine this. Imagine getting 2,000 calories as long as you're eating good, clean food. Imagine getting 2,000 calories worth of nutrients. It's over your RMR. You're supporting your daily activity, and you're hopefully exercising with resistance training and building muscle mass and building this number. So hopefully we can climb up to 1,200. You know, you're not going to see a huge change, but your thyroid function goes back up, your muscle mass grows. You know, maybe we could get this to 1,500 by building some quality muscle mass and then supporting it with calories. And we look at calories as nutrients. All of a sudden now you're going to grow muscle, and I'm not talking, I hate when I hear this, I'm not talking big, bulky muscles. Women don't really have the hormone profile. Some may, and that's really highly dependent on your genetics. A lot of CrossFitters, things like that, you see them get bulky. One, that's what they want to do, so they're probably eating a lot of calories. And they probably also have genetics. That's probably how they got into it, because they were already predisposed to enjoy something or be good at something like CrossFit. So most of you are not going to get bulky by doing basic exercise and eating at your maintenance level or slightly below. So it's just not really a thing. And if you do start to build up, you do have some of those genetics, at that point, then you stop exercising in the way that's producing the stress that allows you to get a little bit bulkier. So when you start to get your calorie deficit just right, and then get your exercise just right, you can get this body that you never thought was possible. And it's really just getting some of the most basic, fundamental things about weight loss and doing it the right way. So again, this is just kind of the basics. Hopefully it's not too confusing. You guys are welcome to ask questions, and sometimes people are like, you know, what about with a male? Why didn't you use a male as an example? But it's the same thing. You just change these numbers to represent yourself. Let's say 200 pounds. An RMR of a male is going to be, you know, anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000. So these numbers just change in that way. Your daily activity, your amount of body fat, figuring some of these basics out. And the math is the same thing. You still eat your maintenance level, burn calories away through exercise, or eat in a slight calorie deficit, and do it with a little bit of patience and understanding. Know that losing 1 pound, and this is the last thing I want to go over because I think this is by far the best way to do it, is by eating your maintenance level, because again, that's lots of nutrients, lots of things to create enzymes and whatnot. So eat at your maintenance level, exercise, you know, so a male with tons of muscle may burn 1,000 calories in exercise. A female may only burn 500. So understand what you're actually exercising and how you're exercising to come up with these numbers for you as the individual. So that's important. So men, don't confuse any of this. Just start to insert the most likely case for you. If you're this 15% body fat at 200 pounds, well, okay, then your numbers are likely going to be slightly higher than this dude at 25% body fat at the same amount of weight, because he has a lot less muscle. So look at yourself and start putting in numbers. Watch what the results are. If you don't lose a pound, then maybe your numbers are slightly off. Make adjustments, and then start to actually take what's happening. So, okay, now I'm losing weight. You may have been an undereater. So if you were an undereater, you're going to want to overeat for a while. You're going to want to eat at your maintenance level, even slightly higher. And this was the last thing that I actually wanted to go over, was how do you decide what makes most sense for you? So undereaters, you've been under consuming, you have not enough nutrients, all these things. So what you're going to want to do first is build muscle. You're going to want to eat at your calorie deficit or at your maintenance level, or maybe even 200 to 300 calories above. Give lots of nutrients. Your body is going to respond in such a positive way by building muscle mass. Again, you just gain 5 pounds, 10 pounds of muscle mass throughout your entire body. That's not even that noticeable. You're definitely not going to be bulky. But that 10 pounds of metabolically active tissue makes a huge difference in these numbers and how many calories you will burn even when you're sleeping. So if you're an undereater, build muscle, attack it that way. Build muscle first, repair your tissues, get lots of nutrients, understand that you have to be patient and work on this first before you're going to work on fat loss. You will actually, as you start to build muscle, your scale will go up, but really that's muscle and you're losing fat at the same time, so you can't let that wig you out, because it will happen. And I see that all the time. People are like, I'm not losing weight. Your body composition is just changing. You're building muscle, losing fat. The amount of muscle weighs way more, is outpacing the fat loss, but at a certain point that's going to tip. You're not going to be building muscle so fast, and then all of a sudden you're going to see weight loss, and you're going to change how you look and feel drastically. And that's the ultimate gauge of success, is getting all these little details right. If you're someone that has been over consuming, you're obese, you're really high body fat, this is simple. Then you're going to get right to creating a calorie deficit through calories, and then also exercising, because your body has had plenty of energy, likely nutrients depending on what you were eating. If it was total garbage, just start eating better food and then create that deficit, get right to it, and that you should see fat loss right off the bat. You probably have more muscle mass, so it doesn't have to be that difficult. Just start to understand the basics, like I said, get your numbers right, start tracking, and then you're more likely just be patient. You're going to see results. It's just understanding some of the information. So again, I'm going to go over with a lot more videos, more specific strategies of how to use how your body is built as individual, especially some of the genetic components. And that's something that I'm really passionate about, and I really understand how it affects your health and your weight. So we're definitely going to get into a lot of that stuff. So stay tuned. If you're on YouTube, then subscribe, like the video, and let's grow this channel together. It's going to be super fun to see you guys actually happy. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. We'll talk to you later.